Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today is Friday, November 22nd, 2024. It is noon at the Multipurpose Center. And I'm going to go ahead and start with roll call to make sure we have quorum. Myself present, Mr. Rene Peña.
Present.
Mr. Eduardo Ramirez.
Present.
Mr. Noe Castillo, absent. Ms. Patsy Garcia.
Present.
And Mr. Jesse Solis.
Present.
And Mr. Basilio Villarreal, absent. We have a quorum. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Ramirez.
I pledge allegiance
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Followed by an invocation, if you can remain standing, by Mr. Peña.
Let's go to bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, today we just want to thank you for being here today, Father. Thank you for allowing us, Father, the privilege of serving the children and the employees of the district, that you give us the wisdom, the knowledge, Father, to make the necessary decisions, Father, that will impact our student learning, Father. Once again, we want to thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Peña. Okay. Now, the reports. Okay. At this time, I will pull items 3, 4, 5 in reports and information. And from consent agenda? From consent agenda, action items, which ones? 4, 5, all of these in reports and information. And then, but I think you want more. Items.
4, 5.
And items 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, and 31 to the next meeting. I want to clarify that we, as a new board, need a little bit more time to discuss and look over these items, and I'm going to decide to pull these to the next meeting. Did you get those, Ms. Becky? Do you need me to repeat? I can repeat for you. It is on reports and information 3, 4, and 5. And on consent agenda, item 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, it was 10, 11, all of them, right? Hold on, give me a second. Yeah, and also 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, and 31. And like I said, it's just to give us a little bit more time to review these items. Since today was it was supposed to be a short meeting. I know it's early release, and I want to make sure everybody's out of here and gets to enjoy their weekend. And I have no objections to that.
None.
Okay. Now on section 4, on reports and information, item number 1, reports on substitutes in existing vacancy and teacher staffing for all campuses. Dr. Arcadio?
Who's presenting?
We don't need a motion to pull. We don't need a motion to pull that. It's gonna pass.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent of Schools, Ms. Morris. On that pass out that I just handed out to you, we do start out with, just kind of before we get into it, I'd like to give you a brief summary of how we do things. So the first item you see is the staffing guidelines. Obviously, you see staffing guidelines for high school, middle school, and elementary, and these are based on TASB's recommendations, and it's real obvious on the columns you see, all based on enrollment. So that's the first handout. That's pretty basic. I don't know if anyone has a question on that. On the next page where you see this is one of the most important ones here, you see the employee count comparison per fiscal year, and we start off with 2020. You see a total staffing amount of 1922. This is employees with a student enrollment of 9996, right under 10,000. In 2021, 2022, you see an employee count of 2,046 with an enrollment of 9,008. In 2022, 2023, you have a staff count of 1997 and an enrollment of 9644. And in 24, 25, the current year, of course, this data will fluctuate. We're in the mid-year. There's many things that happen with employees. Some vacancies may appear, some may be closed. You see a staffing count of 1928 and an enrollment of 9315. So that's the trend. I'd like to express to the board that even though the first handout was a staffing pattern for TASB as per pupil versus teacher ratio, administrator ratio, counselor ratio, you have factors involved such as the academic, I guess, philosophy, for lack of a better word. That means in the middle school, for example, we have what we call a block schedule. If you do away with a block schedule, you need less staff because they service more children. At the secondaries, you see planning periods, if I'm not mistaken, for STAR-tested areas. Teachers have a common planning and a personal planning. Obviously, a personal planning, every teacher in the district has a personal planning by law. But when you add a common planning for a course that's STAR-tested, currently we have that, then of course that teacher services less children. So factors like that, and I can probably mention more, but those are just examples of how staffing trends may be affected, okay, based on the first page that I gave you. Any questions so far?
And Dr. Salinas, just to be clear, this is staffing that includes teachers, counselors, administrators, bus drivers, everything,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Correct.
Is there a separate breakdown for just the chapter
The
21?
next page?
Yes, right on the next page, I have these are the number of teachers. I included teachers and I broke it down by elementary, middle school, and high school. And at the very bottom, you see the enrollment. In 21-22, total of 702 teachers. I mentioned the enrollment earlier, was 9,008. In 22-23, 686 teachers. This is an enrollment of 9,644. And in 23-24, you see a teacher 667 with an enrollment of 9,482. And this year, we have 689 teachers with an enrollment of 9,315. And at the bottom, I did include just the random information so you know on 2018, 2019, what the enrollment looked like. Those are peak enrollments for the district before the charter, took its full impact on us, the charter schools.
Dr. Arcadio, real quick. So when you say 689 teacher or 667 for this past year, you're saying everybody, even non-certified teachers, or permanent subs are being counted there or no?
So that's a great question. So let's look at 23-24. The district became a district of innovation last year. So for a teacher to be counted as a teacher, we'd call, I think, Code 87, is that my data? Code 87, is that accurate? I call it Code 87, an FTE teacher. So last year, we'd have a sub-existing vacancy not be considered a teacher. Okay, so in that number, they're not included.
Okay.
The following year, which is this school year, our district became a district of innovation, so a sub-existing vacancy became a Code 87. So that number does include what last year's SIVs would be considered this year's DOIs. And what that means is this year we have a total of 9 sub-existing vacancies, and we have 45 District of Innovation teachers. And that number on the 24-25 school year, that 689 includes your DOIs. But you see the SIV number, that sub-existing vacancy number decrease because of the DOI exemption.
Okay. So in your opinion, right now our teacher-student ratio is good? Or do you think we need to work on increasing our teachers or just keeping our teachers the way we are? What do you think?
That's a great question, ma'am. If you skip, the page we're on, skip one more, you see a very similar Excel sheet. On the next page, looks like this one right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, if you look at that one, I hope I can answer your question. That's every campus with the current enrollment, the number of teachers, and then we divided the number of students by teacher. Now, I want to, if I'm correct, this is not an accurate number when you get a 22 to 1, 20 to 1 at the high schools. It's different, because you have CATE classes, you might have special education classes like we do also in the elementary, but it's very difficult. And the elementary, that's the way we staff. We look at a 22 to 1 ratio. As you get up in the high school, it's a little different because the academic systems are different. But as you look at our ratios, we can get better, to answer your question. Those ratios are low. You range from anywhere between 14, 19, 20, 21 to 1. So the answer is yes, ma'am. We can get better. There's a lot of room for improvement.
Doc, trying to word this the right way. I guess to get a survey of the teachers that are teaching the subjects and their background, and whether they're DOI or whether they're certified in those backgrounds, that have to be a school-by-school survey or study, or you see what I'm getting at? Like, I just want to make sure that the teachers teaching them, maybe especially the core areas, are teachers that are certified and have the background to do that in. I'm sure that will help, grades and all that. But I think that's another study at some point we need to. I know that's asking a lot, but I think that's something that it's something we need to look into. You hear a lot of stuff, right? But until we get an accurate number and say these are teachers teaching core areas, are they certified in those core subject matters? Things of that nature. But I think this is just. I know we're doing right now teacher-student ratio, but then the more fundamental question for me is, do we have the teachers that are certified, or do we need to go get them? Do we need to find them? I think it's an important issue to look into.
Yes, sir.
I agree with him in that. That's very important, I think. And to go even a step further, I remember asking you some time back, what are we doing to get our teachers that are not certified yet, what are we doing to help them get certified? And you told me that there were some things in place, but after speaking to a couple of people out there, I think that they still feel that we could do a little bit more. And I think I feel that we really need to their teachers are there. Like some of these are great teachers, they're just not test takers. I think that it's very important that we work together and we implement something that can be cost efficient, where we can help them pass their certifications and get them. They're there already, might as well help them than go around looking for others,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
hopefully we can look into that.
Yes, ma'am. Noted.
Wait, doctors, you might not know the answer to this question, but District of Innovation is the number. How many do we have? You said 40-some?
Yes, sir.
Is that about average, or have you even compared it to other school districts?
This is our first year, but I know Ms. Morris was on a TA call yesterday with the
Okay.
Commissioner of Education, and I don't recall, Ms. Morris, of the numbers. Was it 55%?
34 to 40% of secondary teachers across the state are non-certified. Because they don't have their content area specialty, which is like if they're English teachers, they may not have a degree in English.
Right.
And I know as a district, we struggle with math,
Exactly.
finding certified people with math.
Yes.
Math majors, so this is not only a trend, it's a trend across the state. I know the commissioner's looking at it because a lot more people are leaving the profession, and there is no incentive aside from teacher incentive allotment as far as, teacher raises and so on. So they're seeing a
Okay.
trend as in some school districts as high as 40% of their staff not being certified. So
So we're okay.
I
Now-
think we're doing
yeah.
better.
Okay.
Excuse me. Now, these teachers that are under the DOI, Dr. Salinas, are they on a year-to-year basis, or are they follow the same as your teachers that have tenure?
Yeah,
in
that is
the
correct, Mr.
district?
Peña. They're on a year-to-year basis on a non-21 one-year term.
It's a one-year term
Yes, sir.
and non-21?
Correct.
Non-chapter 21?
Correct.
One last question for me on the substitutes. That's probably another list or study that we need. I think there's quite a bit, right? Substitutes in general.
Currently, we have 9 sub and existing vacancies because they didn't qualify for the DOI, because the DOI approved by the board was a pre-K3, K5.
Right.
Secondary core. So if we lose a position, let's say, just, I don't know, P, then we would put an SIV to try to see if we can, you're working with enrollment, so we like to play substitute just to see if the enrollment does come back or doesn't come back. As you can see in the numbers I gave you, we're down from last year. So that's,
Yes.
yes. So to answer your question, sir, yes, we're at 9 currently, substitutes and existing vacancies. But the reason being, the number dropped because most of these teachers qualified for the DOI program.
Gotcha.
Any further discussion or questions? Thank you, Dr. Arcadio.
Thank you.
I know that was a lot, but it's a trend, you know, we see a lot of trends and we're gonna start addressing them little by little.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, on item number 2, presentation and update on current 2024-2025 budget, actual expenses versus budgeted expenses, and projected deficit for 2024-2025 budget. Ms. Robles.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So the title of the presentation, it's a financial update for the general fund budget, actual expenses, and a deficit outlook for this year. So the second slide that we have, it's just a summary overview. So the total budget for general fund this year was adopted at $111,119,544. So that's the total expenses that we have in the general fund. And as of October 31st of this year, we have actual expenses of $26,595,704. And we have received revenues as of October 31st also of $31,792,043. Our budgeted change in fund balance is a decrease of $8,058,085. So that is the current deficit that is budgeted and has been adopted by the board. The next slide presents the expenditures for the current year as they have been budgeted under the different categories. And the first one that we have, payroll costs, we have budgeted $90,667,669, and that makes up 82% of our total budget. Professional and contracted services, we budgeted $10,751,162, which comprises 9% of the total budget. Supplies and materials for $3,444,905, 3% of the total budget. Other operating expenses, $4,238,603, which comprises 4% of the total budget. We have debt service, $1,070,241, 1% of the budget, and our capital outlay expenses of $946,964, which is equivalent to more or less 1% of the total budget. Actual expenses, again, as of October 31st, $26,595,704, and on the last column there, you will see the percent used of expenses used in each category. The next slide, we have other financing sources and uses, and for this year, we budgeted $1,205,515, and this is basically from the Chapter 313 agreements that we have with some wind farm companies or organizations, and so this is what has been projected to be received this year. We will not be receiving these checks until January, so that is why you will see there in that column that it's an empty space there.
Excuse me, Diana, and this you will receive all at once, the 1 million?
Yes, we usually receive it in January from 3 different companies, so I don't know the exact date, but it will vary depending when they sent it to us. However, that is just an estimate, and it's actually calculated by Moog and Casey, who are the ones that calculate this on their part from their companies, so it might be more, it might be less, which is going to be based on ADA, the average daily attendance also.
Are you, on that one, are you accounting for the windmills and the solar and all that?
Yes, all the agreements that we have for Chapter 313.
Gotcha.
And the next slide, we have a projected deficit calculation, how we came up with it. And I have 2 slides, and this is what has been adopted by the board, and then I will go over another slide that has actual numbers, which is going to be based on current ADA that we have and other expenses or transfers that we need to make. So the projected deficit calculation, we do have total budgeted revenue of $101,855,944. And we have total budgeted expenses or expenditures of $111,119,544. So as you can see, if we sum up those 2 rows there, we do have a deficiency of revenues under expenditures of $9,263,600, and that is based on operating revenues and operating expenses. Now, but we are adding and using the $1,205,515 that are coming in from the solar companies, and so that brings us to a budgeted change in balance of $8,058,085. Again, this is what is found in the budget that has been adopted this current year. And so our fund balance, beginning in July of 2024, we started with a fund balance of $36,373,852. So we will be using the fund balance, part of the fund balance, to cover that deficiency or the change in the fund balance of $8 million. So we're predicting in our budget, based on our budget that was adopted, we're estimating an ending fund balance of $28,315,767. Again, this is based on our adopted budget. If we look at the following slide,
Ms. Robles, excuse me.
Yes.
Because we do have a lot of new board members, but could you explain to the board members what we're required to, or what the state requires as reserves? How many operating days are we required to by the state? Because I think that's a good baseline for.
it's not that we are required, but under the first, there are some testing indicators at which all school districts are held accountable for and how they are being scored. And so there are basically 2 or 3 testing indicators that deal with a fund balance, and it all depends on the testing indicator. So it would range from 60 days of operating expenses to 90 days of operating expenses. So it all depends on what testing indicators you're looking at.
And what would be the 90-day operating expense that we would have?
Right now, we are at about $8 million in expenses per month. So if we look at a 90-day, we would multiply the $8 million times 3, which is $24 million. So based on the budget, we should be okay. But I want to go over this other slide, which is using current ADA, the current attendance by our students, and also another factor that will be affecting our fund balance this year. So again, total projected revenue is $99,609,027 compared to the $101 million that I had mentioned, or that you can see in the prior slide. So this is based on current ADA, and as you can see on the bottom, I put that this revenue was calculated using 8,329 ADA, which is equivalent to $2,246,917 less in state funding. Again, this is where only including the first and second 6 weeks. We still have 4 more 6 weeks to go. But this is the trend that we're looking at, and it looks like we're losing state funding based on the attendance of the students. Total budgeted expenditures, we're keeping it the same right now, $111,119,544. So the deficiency now will be $11,510,517. We will be using again the other financing sources from the Chapter 313 agreements that we have of 1.2 million. And so the projected change in fund balance now, I apologize. Then we have another financing use that we will be seeing this year, and this will be a transfer out to complete the Gruya Middle School of $7,556,642.
Jana, excuse me, what was the beginning, what was the bid that we had for Gruya Middle School at the beginning?
At the beginning,
Was it somewhere 36 million or
well,
something like that?
what was budgeted was 36 million.
36 million?
Yes.
And now we're having to take out 7.5 million out of the general
Yes,
fund to cover
general
the cost?
fund, because the bid came out to 41.5 million.
Almost 42 million?
Yes,
Am I
almost
correct?
42 million. And so, again, when we went out for the bond election, it was right in the middle of COVID. And so whatever we set out the voters to approve, now it fell under what the actual bid came up to. And so at that point, we started looking for other sources for funding to fund the construction. And so, as you all know, ESSER came in, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3. And so under ESSER 3, we sought approval from TEA to complete the middle school. However, in attending workshops offered by Region 1 and TEA in reviewing the requirements or documentation that would be required for construction, we decided that it was best just to cover salaries out of general fund instead of construction, because in talking to the contractor, it was mentioned that since we were going to be using federal funds to cover that completion, we were also requiring them to also provide additional documentation as to certified payrolls from their subcontractors. And so they were mentioning that the cost will go up because of that different requirement that was not included in the bid whenever we advertised. And so basically, in 23-24, we did some reclassifications of salaries to ESSER to cover the 7.5 million. And so now this year, general fund will cover what was covered through ESSER 3 this past year. It's basically just a wash out, but it's in the timing.
But it's
We
gonna-
used ESSER
but it-
3,
Excuse me, but it's going to impact the general fund balance, correct?
Yes,
It's going to have a big impact on
7.5.
the general fund balance.
yes.
So basically, what you're telling us is we're going to be broke,
Well,
almost.
so the
Almost
projected
broke.
change in fund balance will be 17,861,644, which will come out of the fund balance of the 36 million. And so we're projecting, if everything remains constant, that our fund balance at the end of this year will be 18 million.
Which is not even enough for our 90-day reserve.
Right.
So let's say, just so the layman people, common people, parents, community understand what we're going through with our budget. We are, if I can use this analogy, if we're a car and we're basing our budget on gas, we're pretty much driving on reserve, gas reserve.
Right.
Like the red button is beeping that we need gas. So we're pretty much gonna run out of gas very soon. By the
Yes.
end of the next year, we will run out of gas,
Yes.
out of money.
Is there any plan in action already, Diana, to address the fund balance issues? Is there
Well, I
any
know
plan in-
that
in
we were looking into different scenarios, and so basically we were looking at a different approach of taking attendance for risk students. I know that we submitted an application to TEA, we're waiting on that. As you all know, we also cut costs, which we cannot
Further?
do any further because, again, we've already seen the effect on our campuses and our departments. But on the following slide, I do have revenue drivers or factors that affect our revenues this year. And so I just wanted to mention factors that we cannot control, of course, will be student demographics. Are they SE students, special education? We cannot control that, and so funding is gonna be based on the number of students that we have under each program. Tax collections rates, we cannot control how much the taxpayers pay if they decide to pay this year or the following year. Tier 1 portion of the M&O tax rate, that one is set by TEA. And so then we have factors that the district can influence or that we can have an influence on, and basically would be student enrollment. We need to attract more students, so we do have a way of influencing that. Attendance rate, we can also influence that. We don't have 100% control over that, but we do have some influence. And also the property appraisal accuracy by our appraisal district. Basically, the state comptroller says your property values within your district should be at this level, but our appraisal district has them at a lower level. And so there is a gap in funding that we will always be seeing until we have those local property values at the same level that the state comptroller says that they should be. So we do see a loss in funding because of that, because we're actually funded on the property values set by the state, and so we collect taxes on whatever is set by the appraisal district. So we do have a gap there. However, we can influence the appraisal district because we do have directors that represent the school district in the appraisal district. So that is something that can be looked at. And then we do have also factors that we can control. And so one of them is a tier 2 portion of the M&O tax rate, and so that one is whenever we seek a tax rate election. And the voters decide if we want to increase, if we can increase the taxes or not. And then we also have district programs, which are instructional models, the CCMR, teacher support, which is the TAA or the mentor allotment, and other opportunities out there, such as the loss of grants and all of those things. So all of these plays a factor in however we close the year with those final numbers. So I just wanted to let you know, on the ADA, whatever I calculated, it's just based on the refined ADA, meaning that we're not taking into consideration also the attendance of the certain student group populations. This is just the average of the attendance. And so it may be less or it may be more because we do get different funding for each different student population.
Okay, you're done? Thank you, Ms. Yana. I know you're the messenger. You pretty much give us bad news, but I thank you for doing it in a professional manner. And I just want to recap that what you said. As a community, we need to be optimistic. We can influence our parents, our kids, and our community, our teachers, to make sure that our kids are feeling, treated with respect inside our classrooms, that our parents are educated, that attendance is very important. I think we need to run like a campaign on really educating our community of why it's important, for them to be in school. I think our truancy department is going to play a big role in increasing our funding, through attendance. I know we have a lot of kids that their parents, a lot of it is ignorance, that these parents don't understand that the damage that we're doing to our kids by not sending them to school. And so also, work with psychologists or our counselors so that they can really educate the kids and really motivate them to come back to school. We could pressure also a little bit the collectors, right? Because I know that they have no control, but maybe put a little bit more pressure on our taxpayers and say, hey, how are you doing with collecting, and put a little bit more pressure on that, and increasing our teachers allotment, the incentives, making sure. I think that they did said, Ms. Elsa was saying that they were adding more teachers. That'd be great. These are things that we have control over, and I think that we're gonna try our best to influence what we can, right, impact. And another thing that I want to wrap this up is that throughout our campaign, we always heard that our district was in good financial standing. And so I want to make sure that people in the community understand that it's very different. And I don't know a lot about it, but I know that the financial aid rating that we had, you've done an excellent job, but that A rating did not define our budget, correct?
Right.
That A rating, I need people to really understand, because I get a lot of people that are confused and are asking me these questions, but we're good. We have, and they expect for us to be thriving, as we don't know with our budgets. The A rating was only a rating that is given by TA every year to our campuses, to our schools, based on our paying our bills on time and doing certain criteria that you've explained it, correct? It does not say anything about how healthy or unhealthy our budget is.
There is an indicator where actually it mentions expenditures surpassing or going beyond the budget. And so since we've had a healthy fund balance,
Until now.
that's why it's an either or.
Okay,
We can have a deficit, but yet we had a healthy fund balance that covered that requirement of the 90-day operating expenses or the 60 days. So we will probably start seeing an effect on our rating as we deplete the fund balance.
okay. I just want to make sure that
Yes.
we explain this, because it's very important that people understand the two.
Right.
Okay.
Ms. Robles, real quick.
Yes.
Did you account for the interest on the bonds? I know it's not a lot, but
No, because this is general fund, and so that would be capital projects.
so we got that pending, or that can be additional, or was that accounted for in capital?
No,
Okay.
no. This is only general fund, that is capital projects fund.
Okay.
Ms.
And I
Diana-
thi-
oh, sorry. Ms. Diana, do you have any recommendation for a short-term plan that we can maybe?
No, we just need to continue monitoring our overtime, substitutes expenses, the things that we do have control over.
Overtime and other expenses, substitutes?
Yes, mainly.
Also, another question, I know that I've questioned you before on this. What do you see as it being our biggest, you're the expert. What is our biggest expense? What is where you think that we should work on?
Payroll. Payroll is the biggest one. We have seen a decrease in enrollment, and yet we're still operating with almost the same number of employees as if we
And so
hadn't lost.
That comes with what Mr. Arcadio, and I wanted to point it out when he was there, but now that we're talking about budget, our enrollment, like we said, did go down. So our kids, we have less kids, yet we have more staff. And so that's very, very important, because here we're talking about surviving. We're talking about being able to continue providing a service, education to our community. And it's very important that we address the issue. And I'm glad that you're pointing it out, that there is an issue, because then there's somewhere where we can work on. And go ahead, Mr. Arcadio.
I would agree. It's the 82% that was just presented by Ms. Robles. Obviously that's high. In theory, in school, they teach you anywhere in the high 70s, mid 70s. So the 82% would be definitely, 82% of your pennies are going from that dollar, then that's something to look at.
Ms. Robles, just a quick question. What's the difference between the administration level cost compared to the Chapter 21 costs? The employees that are in
I
Chapter
would
21?
have to get that information based on the function, but I'll get that information to you.
Would you be able to get that information
Yes.
to us? Because it's very important, I think it's very
Yes.
important whether, to look at those numbers and see how do they compare, to teachers actually having an impact in the classroom as
Right.
to where we have administration
Yes.
at top level to see what is the difference between
Yes.
that cost.
I
how
will
much it's
definitely work
costing.
on those numbers for you.
Thank you.
Couple of things. One, it's good that we're having these discussions, and I know we're not live, but right away you hear, what about a Christmas bonus? And what about this? And what about? It's not that we don't want to be generous. It's just we see these numbers and they show it to us, and they present it some ways, some present it different ways. It's presented sometimes we're not even sure where exactly we're at, and it's obvious that there needs to be drastic measures taken. At the same time, I don't want the district to fear this, because it's like any other problem we have. We just got to tackle it, and it's going to take everybody's part. It really is. Can we do it? Yes. There's people. If you love this district, yes, you will do what it takes to get the job done. At the same time, when certain things aren't done, or the budgets can't stretch all the way across, we need people to understand why. And this is why. It's not because we're being stingy or we don't want to help, but everyone's gonna have to tighten the belt a little bit. And maybe next year changes when Governor Abbott gets his voucher program. Maybe he releases some funds and helps out, I don't know. But for the time being, that's the trend, again, that we spoke about earlier. And we're not the only district facing it. There's school districts that are closing down schools. And, you know, La Jolla, not too far, chopping a good percentage of their personnel, like nothing. Just, you know, this district hasn't done that. So, it was something that we really need to be realistic about. But I don't also want to instill fear and have people worried about it, because I think if we all combine and join forces, it's something that we can address, and we have to, and we will. If we want this district to thrive and keep going forward, we have no choice. So we just all got to work together.
So yes, we want to reassure teachers, especially staff that are directly impacting our kids, to not be worried, because I know that a lot of teachers are worried, and I am telling you all, do not worry. You are essential in the schools for teaching our kids. So we will try to always make every decision with the less impact on students and teachers. But you all do need to understand that we have a problem. I'm glad that we're here. We knew we were coming into a problem. We knew it. It's not a surprise. So we're here to help. We're here to try to do things, and we're optimistic. Like, I think that we are gonna do. There's places where we can do something about it, and we already know the problem. We're gonna address it, and teachers, staff, parents, rest assured that we're gonna do our best with the less impact, negative impact on our kids as possible. Any other discussion or questions?
Do we have any plan in place, any recruitment efforts, Delta?
What we are working on, I think somebody mentioned it, Diana did, we are submitting a flex attendance application. If that goes through, we're wanting to start an adult education, because when you look at the numbers and you look at the biggest trend, it's the enrollment. So we've lost enrollment. Really the only way to really get out of this is to get enrollment. It's not our ADA. While some might think it's your ADA, our ADA, as a matter of fact, has gone up from last year to this year. The truancy, I think, department is doing a really great job. I was looking at the attendance rate just these past 6 weeks. We've hovered between 91 and as high as 97. So the district itself is averaging at a 94.9 in ADA. So it's not ADA. We have an enrollment issue. And then in addition to that, we do have a pre-K program that does not get funded full-time, but we do provide services full-time. So that's something else that does incur costs. But as far as things to generate income, we're looking at the CCMR outcome bonus. And I know that was one of the items that was left for December, but CCMR is really, really important. Every year we're leaving about $2 to $3.5 million on the table, because our kids are completing their CCMR, but they're not TSI ready. And what that means is they have to pass both parts of the exam. And if they do, then the district stands to gain further, I guess, to pay dual enrollment, to pay some of those classes that we pay for our expenses at the early college. So CCMR bonus is a big one, enrollment, adult education, and then, of course, I know we don't want to talk about it, but we've talked about tax ratification in the past, maybe combining some campuses. That's what some of the districts across the Region 1 area are doing.
What about student recruitment efforts, like new students? I know that we got hit big time through IDEA. Have we had any recruitment efforts to try and
We have
regain some of
tried.
those
I know
students?
that this year we had Ms. Bazan and her team start since last spring trying to recruit students. And when you look at the recruitment efforts, we did pick up some 3-year-old K3 and K4, but when you look at the number of students we're graduating and the number of students that we're picking up in the early grades, there is an imbalance. We're not picking up the same number of kids entering. And even, I know I submitted numbers yesterday for the new Gear Up cohort, and I looked at the 7th grade numbers, and our 7th grade enrollment is down. We look at our seniors graduating this year, our senior class is, I guess, a little bit smaller this year than it had been in years past. So I think IDEA did impact us, but not as significantly. I just think that families are moving out, and we're not necessarily picking up. So I think tapping into adult education, we did lose a lot of kids during COVID that maybe did not get their diploma. So if we can get that adult education, 18 to 26-year-old, we get full ADA for those kids, so.
Yes, as long as you come back and report them to the district as graduates, you'll get funding for it. I used to work in a program.
You get funding if they just enroll.
Yeah.
We'll get ADA for them. So if we can pick up 200 adult eds that, do the math, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Diana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No more questions or discussions. We move on to section 5, recommending approving the consent agenda. The board has agreed to discuss the following items. Number 1, consider and take possible action on donations to Rio Grande City Gruya ISD.
Unless there's any discussion required, Madam President, I move that we approve the consent agenda as is presented.
A second.
So Mr. Ramirez moved the motion and Mr. Peña second. All those in favor say, raise your right hand. Okay, so same sign, all in favor, motion passes. Consent agenda number 2, consider and take possible action on tax refunds for the month of October 2024.
That one, it accounted for item 2, Madam President, so we can move to action item 3. The motion was to approve the whole consent agenda, which is item 1 and 2.
Oh,
So now you can go to action item 3.
thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
Okay, so action item number 3, consider and take possible action on opening vacancy for RGCGISD superintendent position. Any discussion or motion?
We can also discuss that in executive session. You can make the motion to open it up, and then we can discuss the details in executive session.
Thank you. That's what I was hesitant before.
Okay.
I so move, Madam President.
Mr. Ramirez moves the motion, and do I have a
Second.
second? Mr. Peña seconds. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, same sign, all in favor, motion passes. Now number
6.
Item number 6, consider and take possible action on acceptance of annual financial audit for the year ending June 30, 2024.
We need a motion to approve and a second, and then discussion.
After,
Okay.
yes, after the presentation, right?
After presentation?
After.
After presentation, fine.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Raul Hernandez. I'm the CPA auditor for the district. Everyone should have an audit report in front of them. I'd like to begin on page 17. But certainly before I do, listening to Deanna, I feel like she put the cart before the horse here, because the numbers I'm going to talk about, remember that these are as of June 30, 2024. So you're going to hear good numbers here, but understand that what has happened just in the last 5 months since this report. That being said, also the auditor's opinion is unmodified, and that translates into a clean opinion. Page 17. Page 17 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances for your governmental funds. And again, I stress, for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2024. The first column is your general fund. Total revenues were $113,720,257. As you look down to account 6030, expenditures were $111,532,868. So your revenues exceeded expenditures by $2,187,389. After this, however, you had other resources coming in. And again, this is related to your wind farms. That was $1,347,031. Thereafter, you transferred out $2,892,115. So your increase to your general fund is $642,305. Now, you started with $38,191,534, and you ended with $38,833,839. Essentially, we're validating what she had at the beginning of her budget. So, again, I want to stress that these are good numbers, but they're behind us already. Any questions on the general fund? Right next to the general fund, you'll note the ESSER fund closed out. It spent a little over $9 million. Then you have the debt service fund at the very bottom. That fund balance was $9,250,8 $659. Over on page 18, your capital projects fund ended with $27,378,753. This is your capital projects. Then you have all other related funds. These are your other special revenue funds that you'll find as you look in the back part of the audit report. They open up individually. Those had an ending fund balance of $246,877. So, in total, $75,710,128. But understand, these are all the entire funds, including the general fund. Any questions? No questions. Well, real quickly, let's go to page 55. Now, page 55, again, is illustrating your general fund. In particular, the column to the right-hand side. What you're looking at here are the related variances, whether they're positive or negative. Specifically, the ones under expenditures, beginning with function 11. To the far right-hand side, you'll see that every function came in under budget. And then the total on account 6030 again, to the far right-hand side, you came in under budget, $15,975,000. So as you see at June 30, 2024, you had very good numbers to begin the year. But we just heard, the explanation from Ms. Diana. So any questions? No questions. The remainder of the report is pretty much comparable as it's been in the past. I have no plans to cover that in detail. You have not had a chance to look at this in advance, but I think it's important to close telling you that there are no audit findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you so much. All right, if no further discussion or questions, do I have a motion to approve item 7?
I so move,
Wait,
Madam President. Item 6.
6, sorry.
I so move.
Okay, Mr. Ramirez moved motion,
Second.
Mr. Peña seconds the motion. Same sign, all in favor, raise your right hand. And same signs, all in favor, motion passes. Item 15, consider and take possible action on budget amendment number 2025-3.
Yep. Let me see. Can we have some discussion real quick on what the budget amendment is? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. What's the budget, or what's the amendment? that's being-
Basically, there is no change in our
Okay.
affecting the fund balance here. We do have an amendment to the Child Nutrition Program, and this is for a grant that we received, and so basically, we are just increasing our expenditures and also increasing our revenues. So there is no change there, and the rest are coming in from the campuses.
Okay.
They're for different purposes.
The grant is for 371,000?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Robles.
yes, sir.
No further questions or discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to pass?
I so move.
Mr. Ramirez?
Go ahead and second.
And Mr. Rene seconds. All in favor, raise your right hand. And same signs, all in favor, motion passes. We go to item 16, consider and take possible action on requisitions under TASB policy, CH local,
Doc-
purchasing and acquisition.
Is that Dr. Salinas or who's that? I'm sorry, Mr. Guerra.
Just a brief explanation so our viewers can see what it's about.
Good afternoon, everyone. So these are pretty much just requisitions that we're bringing to the board before you all for any expenses or things that already happened. So we need your approval in order for us to be able to process and pay.
Does anybody have any questions? I'll give them some time to. So if we have no further discussion or questions, do I have a motion to move item 16?
I move to approve item 16 as presented.
Second.
Mr. Ramirez, motion item, Mr. Peña, second, and same, all in favor, raise your right hand. And same sign, all in favor, motion passes. Item number 17, consider and take possible action on requisitions 5,000 and over. I move motion to table this item because we would like to see further documentation description on invoices and work orders, especially for the chillers and the air conditioning. We need more information. We're a new board and there's very high expenses, like very, very high numbers that we're dealing with. And we want to make sure that we're really using our maintenance department to do a lot of the work. And I understand some work can be done and we need to hire the outside companies, but we really just want to have some more time and look over with descriptions, because we're only getting big chunks, but we don't know what it was. So we can have descriptions on those invoices and work orders.
Do you want me to include the actual requisitions within the packet or the quotes, or what would you like me to include for the next time we bring
I
it?
think, do they submit invoices or not?
They're the quotes. These are requisitions that we have quotes for.
Yeah,
That's why
and-
if you go down, the ones that we had before were invoices.
Yeah, the questions that I have is that when you look at the description, all it says is HVAC supplies for all schools and departments. So that does not give us ample information to see what is getting addressed at the different campuses and the services that are being provided. So we would like a more detailed report as to what these companies are doing at each campus, and does that, the amount being charged for those services, do they, you know, are they what it is, you know?
Yeah, what I can do moving forward is behind the list of the requisitions, I can put maybe like a spreadsheet that shows, let's say, the vendors with, let's say, Campus A, let's say, Real High School. They're getting filters, they're getting Freon, refrigerant, whatever the case might be, and list them down.
Can our maintenance do the Freon and the filters?
That's a question for, I really don't know that.
Maintenance, is somebody here for maintenance?
I'm
Like
more than
right
sure.
now, I think from here on, we're gonna start really pushing for the most that can be done in-house for us to get it done.
Good afternoon, Board President, members of the board, Ms. Morris. Some of those items are purchases for supplies like the Freon, and the reason that we put all campuses is because it depends on, it's not bought, we don't buy a jug of Freon for a specific campus, it might be used at several campuses, so that's the material that the person might use. Now, on other items where we have somebody coming in and installing, and they do have to provide the refrigeration for that particular device, it'll say, for example, I don't know, Gruya High School or Rio High School, it'll specify where it's for. If it says all schools, that means it's general supplies that can be used at any other campus, so our technicians can have.
Okay. So it's none of the maintenance being done on ACs, TJ? Maybe
Yes, we do have a shortage in human resources. We have 4 technicians for the whole district, which sometimes provides, for example, in looking at our work orders for this fiscal year alone, we had over 300 in the system. So our guys are doing what they can to cover as much as they can, but a lot of times we are replacing new machines and what have you, and we have multiple calls. And not only the 300 and some work orders that are in the system, but the calls that I get, that the supervisor gets, that the technicians get, that aren't indicated, that we do ask them to input them, they don't input everything, but we do have the records of the ones that were input.
Yeah, and the only reason that we're asking, TJ, if we can have a detailed report as to what is being addressed.
Yes, sir.
It's because the amount of money that we're.
It is
spending
significant.
high. It's
It is significant.
high.
I know.
29,000 for the record, so people can know 129,000 I can see those
Yes.
amounts, and 23,000.
This is-
Those are just two, but we see a lot of these.
Yes.
big costs. So we just want to make sure that.
Exactly, and I think that, you know, it's important that you do identify which areas are used for, and that everything that's there is legitimate. We do it in the best interest of our staff and children. We do get calls from principals, from our superintendent, sometimes from board members as well, and we want to address those issues because I don't think it's fair for our children or our staff to be suffering, I guess, environments where it's not comfortable for them.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I motion to table this item number 17.
A second?
Mr. Ramirez seconds. No, it's, oh yeah, I already did. Okay, so, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, same sign, all in favor, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 20, consider and take possible action on memorandum of understanding MOU and data sharing agreement number 5209888 between Mathematica Incorporation and Rio Grande City Gruya ISD.
Ms. Ramirez, it's a requirement, right? It's required that if we're selected, we have to participate in the study.
Good afternoon. Yes, we are required to participate. And this study, we have been selected to participate for this coming year, and the intent is to gather information, you know, about our program, the finances, nutritional quality, school food environment, policies, and so forth, after the implementation of the reforms of the Healthy and Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 and the reforms that were established thereafter. So basically, Mathematica is acting on behalf of the Food and Nutrition Service of USDA to go ahead and come on site, collect data. They selected 4 campuses: Gruya High School, Ringgold Middle School, Veterans, and Gruya Elementary.
Patsy, I know there's some compensation, but that comes along with this or not?
They do have some incentives.
They have incentives,
And I
that's
did
correct.
speak to Dr. Salinas about that, and Dr. Salinas and I discussed that if, you know, the interviews and the data collection is being done during work time, that there would be no need for that.
Oh, okay.
So, Dr. Salinas, I don't know if you want to.
So that's
Say anything
optional.
else?
That would be optional, Dr. Salinas, whether,
Yes, sir. In planning with Ms. Ramirez, the question was posed when the study comes down, that people who interviewed or questioned, it would happen during the scope of work, during the duty hours. My recommendation, actually, my direction to her was that that would not be allowed. Anything before, or after work, then we would consider that.
that would be your recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Salazar, I know it's information sharing, data sharing. Did you review the MOU?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I just know it's sensitive data, so I just want to make sure it's,
Right.
that you
but-
reviewed
but
it.
Most of those agreements have a confidentiality clause where we can't share student or teacher or the person being interviewed
Correct.
information. So we do have that in all of our contracts.
Perfect, thank you.
If no further questions or discussion, do I have a motion for item 20?
I so move.
Second?
Mr. Ramirez made motion and Mr. Peña second. All in favor, raise your right hand. And same sign, all in favor, motion passes. Item number
24.
24. Consider and take possible action on request for permission for Director of Bilingual ESL, Director of Early Childhood, Director for Parental Involvement, Bilingual Strategist, Elementary Administrators, and Secondary Administrators to attend the 54th Annual National Association for Bilingual Educators Conference in Atlanta, Georgia on February 2025 through February 2025. And this is something that's been done every year, right?
Correct.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Board President, members of the board, Ms. Morris. District leaders play a critical role in shaping policies, guiding instructional practices, and supporting teachers and students. The NABIC conference offers unique opportunities to engage with national experts, explore research-based strategies, and gain insights into innovative bilingual and ESL programs. By attending, district leaders will better equip campuses with tools, training, and resources needed to ensure ELs achieve academic success and English language proficiency. Furthermore, leaders will be empowered to drive systematic improvements, provide targeted professional development, and enhance family engagement efforts. Investing in district leadership through Title III funding ensures a sustainable, district-wide impact on EL education, maximizing the benefits for students, teachers, and community. At this time, we have 6,770 EB students in our district. That is 73% of our population. It has been practiced for years to send 10 employees to this conference. We are using less than 10% of our budget, less than 1% of our budget for this conference. Working together is important in our department, not in isolation. Title III is a grant, and one of the components is to attend conferences and professional learning. Any unused money does go back to the state. We are asking for permission to attend. We respectfully recommend and submit for board approval the 54th Annual National Association for Bilingual Educators Conference in Atlanta, Georgia, from February the 20th to the 22nd.
Mrs. Aguilar, I like the traveling, but I'm always want to be equal as to who gets to go. How are the other ones chosen, the strategist and the other
Okay,
secondary administrators?
so what I did, unfortunately, the bilingual department has a lot of money, early childhood and parental does not. So the early childhood department and the parental involvement department does not have money to attend conferences. And I'd like to take them under my wing and give them the opportunity to go. I was the early childhood director for 4 years and I did not attend a conference in the 4 years that I was there.
That's why I'm asking for that reason.
Yes, and Mr. Martinez and I, as you all know, we exchanged roles and we have been working together to move this district forward. One of the components also for Title III is parental involvement, and we do funnel monies to Mrs. McKee, and she does work hand in hand with our department as well. So, and I think it's important to have the other members of our department to attend any TEA webinars, any Region 1 trainings. We are all going together. And I think it's important that we're all there and we're all on the same page, because if I'm not here tomorrow, at least they're knowledgeable on what's going on.
I'd just like to put that on the record so people know, hey, everyone's given a fair chance, or they're selected some random way.
Yes, so
or-
what we do with the campus administrators, this year we selected 2 elementary and 2 secondary.
Right.
And every year we rotate. These are people that have never attended this conference before.
Perfect.
Yes, so.
And there is funding available for this without any.
It's a grant.
any
Yes, it's a
issue.
grant. And again, if we do not use this money, it goes back to the state.
Thank you.
That's real important for the new board members. Some of these programs have a requisition that if you don't spend it, let's say if it's $100,000 and you only spend $90,000, you don't spend all $100,000, well, guess what? Next year, they're only gonna send you $90,000. And they're gonna actually dock you the additional $10,000. So you end up with $80,000. So you get, it's a double whammy. So when they have these programs and they have funds available, use them because they're there for a reason.
So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions or discussion?
Just a clarification on the decision-making form. It says there 1 assistant director on the actual item agenda, but on the item 24, that was left off, so I just want the record to reflect that there will be 1 assistant director also going.
We missed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I so move, Madam President.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Ramirez made motion, Mr. Peña second. All in favor, raise your right arm. And same signs, all in favor, motion passes. We are number 27. Consider and take possible action on the teacher incentive allotment designation fees.
Ms. Benitez.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I have a little presentation. It's not too long, but I feel that you all need to hear this information. So we're gonna go over a few slides. So if you can go to the next one. The teacher incentive allotment leadership team, this is the team that we have. We have people at the district level, and we also have our data analyst that helps us with the data that we have to submit. So it's Ms. Nidia Benitez, myself, Ms. Lillian Jones, who I believe is here with me, Mr. Julio Eguia, Dr. Trevino was supporting us this year, and Mr. Hector Lopez. So we have a team. It's not something that we do, one person can do this type of work. So what is the teacher incentive allotment? It is the opportunity to compensate our teachers based on performance pay. So there are 3 designations that are determined by the allotment. We have the lowest level, which is the recognized, in which a teacher can make an extra stipend of $3,000 to $6,000 for 5 years if designated. We have exemplary, in which a teacher can get a stipend between $6,000 and $18,000, and masters, in which a teacher can make $12,000 and $32,000 if designated. The exact amount is dependent upon the funding map that is put out by the state, which is in turn based on at-risk populations and economically populations, as well as enrollment per campus. Okay. Our designation system is based on two main components: student growth, which weighs 65%, and teacher observation, which weighs 35%. And for this reason, we do pre-testing at the beginning of the year in those subjects that are designated or eligible, and then post-testing at the end of the year, that weighs 65%. And then the teacher observation is very much calibrated to ensure that all appraisers are appraising their teachers with the same rubric, with the same lens. So teacher incentive allotment started in 2021. We had phase one. We started with the STAR tested areas, and we had two categories. Those we determined the data for those areas that have a progress measure, which are those subjects that have a previous STAR score. And then those that do not have a progress measure, which are those areas that are independent, for example, the social studies 8th grade, the biology in high school, and so forth. And so that was phase one. And then we collected data and designated 66 teachers, and I'll go over those numbers in a bit. And then the phase two, we brought in kinder through second grade through the NWEA exam, and we also brought some selected ICAV courses. We are concentrating on the principal level of CT. And then we had phase three, and we are collecting data for that we collected data last year, we submitted the data already. And I'll explain that process in a bit. And then we had phase three, which is right now, we're collecting data for all those areas that you see on the screen. We have 7 categories now. So we are including all the ones that I just mentioned, plus second grade math, 6th and 8th grade science, geometry, algebra 2, English 3, secondary music, secondary PE, and AP courses at the secondary level. So pretty much we have 7 categories right now. We can go to the next screen. We have 7 categories, and already looking, we've been coordinating with Region 1, and we're already looking into category 8. And with that, if we can go to the next screen, we will look into SLOs to bring in all other subjects. It's going to be a different approach, but we get to keep what we have already worked on, and we add to that. So pretty much we're growing. The whole concept of teacher incentive allotment from the beginning, or our program, was based on we were going to start small and then grow into, hopefully into SLOs, and finally that time has come 4 years later. Possible areas to include with the SLO would be your social studies non-tested, pre-kinder electives, and dyslexia, among others. Next. And then these are the numbers, the way that they look. This is last year. We paid, and the reason that we are here is because of the designation fees. What that means is that we have to pay the designation fee, which is reimbursable. So last year, we paid $33,500 in fees, which were reimbursed to the district. This is so that Texas Tech University starts working on our paperwork. And so last year we designated 19 teachers recognized, 33 were exemplary, and 14 masters, for a total of 66. We were right under $1 million revenue that came in. 90% of that amount goes to the teachers. 10% is for a procedural, it's for the district to continue supporting TIA. And then this year, if you can go to the following slide, this year we have $54,500 fees that we have to pay. We are looking at designating 20 teachers as recognized, 35 at exemplary, and I am very proud to say 54 masters. 54 teachers masters, that is huge. So the amount of money that we are looking at is $2 million, a little bit over $2 million, which is 16% of our total teachers that we currently have. And that the only thing is that we are pending validation. Validation will happen in February. That's when we're going to be informed if our data was validated. But I can tell you that our data was already checked by Region 1 and by our technical assistant provider, Dr. Espinosa, and they are very comfortable that our data looks really good.
I'm sorry, Ms. Benitez, I didn't get, how many more were added?
109.
But those are for the last year. Did we?
No.
Oh.
There were
wait,
66.
Yes, those are new.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Now, I'm just curious, how are you gonna do it with the music, the fine arts? How are you gonna do a beginning of the year assessment compared to end of the year assessment?
We partnered with an exam provider that's called Music First. It's an AI exam that the students take at the beginning of the year, and it gives them a score. We already have the data. We've already been looking at it. It looks good. And then from there, we already set the cut points as to how much the students need to improve. They take another exam at the end of the year, and it gets measured. It works. I was wow with that one. It works really nice.
Mrs. Benitez, I just want to clarify because I think there was a technical issue or mistake, because it said there was 107, so that's why the numbers are off.
I'm sorry. I keep saying 107. Ms. Jones keeps repeating me. It's 109.
On the making form.
It is 109.
So it's
Yes.
109, not
Yes.
107, and it's
Yes.
54,500.
Correct.
Okay.
So, and that's the amount of money that we're looking at for total. This is the amount of money that, because we have, remember, 66 teachers from the first year and 109. Some of them might be on both lists, but this is the amount of money that we are going to pay out to our teachers this coming September, in September of 2025, which is
Now-
2,666,000.
I know the 54,500 reimbursable fees, do we have the monies available to cover that cost and then get reimbursed? See?
Yes, yes. Those arrangements have been made prior with the business office. Yes. Next. I think that's it. Any questions?
Questions? Well, thank you so much for that, and I congratulate everyone that worked on it and everybody that got it.
Thank you.
All right, so no further questions or discussion. Do I have a motion for item
I move to approve item 26 as presented.
Second?
27?
20, I'm sorry, 27, I apologize.
And a
Second
So
motion.
Mr. Ramirez, motion, and Mr. Peña, second. And all in favor, raise your right hand. And same sign, all in favor, motion passes. Now, item number 28, consider and take possible action on the participation in the Model District Texas SLO and Portfolio Region 1 ESC program.
I have a little bit of elaboration on that if it's okay. It's just one slide. Can you please show me the next slide? Thank you. So Region 1 is offered the opportunity for districts to participate in the SLO and Portfolio Model School. It's free of charge for this year to us. However, there will be a cost incurred next year in 25-26, and then an additional cost in 26-27. But they will give us technical assistance so that we can grow TIA to bring in the SLO as that eighth category that I talked about in my previous presentation. We believe that it is a good opportunity for all subjects to be monitored, so that instruction can be monitored in all subjects. So we feel that it is a very good partnership they're offering it, and for now it's free, so we want to take advantage of that.
No, I know SLOs is a big deal. I've been as a teacher, I've been as an administrator, and SLOs is very difficult to track. It adds a burden on the teacher in the classroom. Has this been discussed with the teachers at all?
Right now,
getting into the SLO
we would like to start with the stakeholder engagement come December. Pending that, we do have permission to start with this work. It is a 2-year process, so we would work on it, get preparation, submit for expansion in April, and if approved, then next year we would start implementing. But all of this will only happen if we have the support of the teachers,
Yeah.
if the teachers want it.
I think
Yes.
it's very important that the teachers are made aware. Sometimes we make
Yes.
decisions, sometimes as principals, you make decisions and you don't make your teachers aware, and it becomes a burden. And I think this is a big one on them. I think they have enough on their plate already. I think the stress level is very high just with the STAR exams changing. So I'm thinking that as long as you all share with your teachers and make sure that they're on board, because we don't want to come back and hear, you know, that they were not in agreement in doing this, and we approve it.
Yeah, one of the main things with TIA is the stakeholder engagement. We do, at the beginning, when we started with TIA, and throughout, we've had stakeholder engagements in which we meet with our teachers, we talk to them, we explain what the process is, what are the expectations. We've been very clear with them. So if at this point, they feel that is not something that they want, then we will not move forward.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and if no further questions or discussions, do I have a motion for item 28?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Ramirez moved and Mr. Peña second. All in favor, raise your right hand. And same signs, all in favor, motion passes. Item number 29, consider and take possible action on request for permission to submit LASSO Cycle 3 application. Is that one? Can it be sometime?
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Morris. Just on the record, I just want to state that we didn't necessarily have to come to board to do the application, but out of courtesy, we are going to just give you a quick presentation as to what it is. Well, I'm going to go over it. So as you heard, Ms. Robles, and you heard earlier, these are some of the things that we want to leverage off so that we can, you know, save some money when it comes to the district. We brought in millions of dollars already before through grants. And through this LASSO Cycle 3, TEA has done a different twist to what is being offered. And what I say by that, they're being a little bit more specific, and they are listening to the needs of the school districts as far as what's happening. There's 3 portions to this grant. There's 11 possibilities. We're looking at applying for 7 of them. 5 of them come from the curriculum and instruction piece, which deals with a strong foundation implementation, and we're talking about the implementation of the new version of math and reading for elementary schools when they come, and they're calling it Blue Bonnet. I'm sure that you probably heard about the Blue Bonnet one. What they did there is they modified it for Texas and to be more relatable to teachers based on what they've requested that they needed when it comes to the scope and sequence, the roadmap, and making it a lot simpler and more aligned to STAR. And actually looking at the number of days the scope and sequences are set. But that is contingent to being part of this grant. School Foundations Improvement, PLC supports, and that supports at the campuses for instructional coaches, and also supports from providers to provide support not only to the administration, but also to teachers in implementing these curriculums. Instructional leadership is the other one that we have. That is also based for any campus who might be in trouble. We do have one target support school right now at our district, and this would be a grant that would be ideal for them, that will cover their expenses as far as mentorship. We can leverage off of the coaching when it comes to the actual curriculum with teachers, or also the coaching when it comes to the instructional leader. Technology lending grant, that is a grant that we currently have in place, and that is a grant that we're definitely going to seek, because that gives us all those devices that we're able to give out to the campuses, as well as the blended learning grant. The blended learning grant brings all the blended programs into the schools alongside with devices as well. And I know that these are all, these 5 that I mentioned are similar to what we're doing. Instructional leadership piece 1 is like the ESF that we're currently running, but this will be specific to that one campus. Just with those 5, we're looking at $2.56 million possible that we could get if we are awarded, or if we are even said, okay, you know what, this is something that you all qualify for. The next one we're looking for is more time. This is additional school year. So basically, we're looking at this one to apply for is to extend our summer program. So they're looking at, this is just planning, because this would be planning for the summer of 25-26. And just to plan, we could be awarded up to $125,000 just to plan the process. How do we add those additional days, 25 to 30 days in the month of June? We run summer school, so this can definitely help us in the running of summer school. This is something we'll work together with Dr. Salinas, as far as there's certain things that are important. We need to have 180 instructional days, and I know that's something that we're looking at already as a district. And the last one we're looking at is Innovative Schools, School Action Fund. This one, again, is also for the campus that's in support. We do have one, and we're looking up to $375,000 that we can possibly get. So I just want to be clear on some of these grants, especially for those, for that particular school that qualifies. It's going to be one or the other. So we'll have a choice depending on whatever it is that we do get awarded. Then we'll have the option to choose what is the best fit for that particular school. And we're going to want to leverage more as to what is the amount of money that we can possibly get for those campuses. I do have a copy of just at a glance, and I'll share that with you guys so that you all can kind of look at that.
Blue Bonnet, I know you mentioned curriculum. Is that a math?
Blue Bonnet is the new name for Texas. What they did is they bought pieces of Eureka and your pieces of Amplify, but they modified it and they're calling it Blue Bonnet. And you'll probably hear it on the news, and it's all over Texas. And what that's going to do is also going to help us when it comes to these materials, because the state of Texas is allotting us $20 extra per student, $60 plus 20 extra when we engage in these products. So that also helps us a lot with the funding.
So basically, it's going to be more targeted towards our TEKS, towards our...
Targeted directly to our TEKS, to the STAR test. So what they've done is they've modified everything, number of days for instruction, there's lessons that have been removed, things have shifted, so it's going to be, it's detailed to the state of Texas.
So Eureka and Amplify.
That's correct.
A la Texas.
Yes.
Como dices, ¿verdad?
Yes.
So there won't be any impact where teachers have to learn a new curriculum?
No, it's the curriculum they already have, but they've right now, but what they're doing is it's now more streamlined to what their needs are. That's basically what our teachers have been asking to do, and we've kind of gone in this already. This is our 3rd year of implementation, so they're very familiar with the curriculums. When the Blue Bonnet does come in and we go in this direction, they'll be very familiar to it. So it's just shorter.
All right, thank you.
Would you all like a copy of the, at a glance, I can give you that.
Any questions, comments? Do I have a motion for item 29?
I so move.
Second?
Do I have a second? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. And same signs, all in favor, motion passes. Item number 30, consider and take possible action on the educational and infrastructure technology plan.
Good afternoon again. I don't know if you have any questions. I was not planning on presenting on the technology plan, but if you have any questions, I'm part of the committee that put it together.
I think Ms. Ayala needs it for the LASSO. We have to put our technology plan for the blended learning, so we need that approved.
Yeah, there has to be one in place for federal.
Right.
I will say that that's what I liked was that they monitor every 2 months. They assess the annual benchmarks and they make recommendations to ensure that the benchmarks are met. They do that annually as well, and they modify the goal. So all that's occurring, there's follow through and there's follow up.
Yes.
Okay, so basically this is to go hand in hand with what Ms. Ayala presented. The technology.
We use the technology plan to apply for grants. For example, when we apply for the technology lending grant, which is part of the LASSO, we need to have this in place in order to complete this other application.
Now, I think I read somewhere that there's technology involved, technology equipment, like laptops for students, hotspots.
We do have.
Are we still making those available to all students, or
yes.
It's still happening today?
Yes. Yeah. We're still lending out hotspots.
And that's one of the caveats for the lending grant, is that we allow the students to use the devices.
Right.
So.
Is it for elementary and secondary or just?
The hotspots?
And the laptops.
The laptops, we are in a classroom model, classroom set model, in which we have most classrooms with devices, and I say most because there are the electives, some of them that don't have complete sets. But the math and the reading have complete sets. The science and the social studies have 12 devices per classroom. Why? Because we're implementing the blended learning model, which is another part of the grant, and which is, it constitutes that the students rotate between the groups within the classroom.
Who comprises the committee, the advisory committee?
It's Mr. Eddie Sainz, it's Diana Cantú, San Juanita Olivares, myself, Sam Elizondo.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No further questions or comments, concerns?
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for item 30?
30.
Item
I move to approve item 30 as presented.
Second.
Second. Mr. Ramirez moved motion and Mr. Rene second. Same, all in favor, raise your right hand. And same signs, all in favor, motion passes. The board will now convene in closed session in accordance
Excuse me, Madam President,
sorry.
if I may. Just real quick, I just wanted to get back to item 17, only because there are some items that are time sensitive, so I don't know if we can go back to that. I know we did not pass it,
Yes.
but there are some requisitions like for advancement of like mariachi and fine arts. And we do have some requisitions that are for, let's say, like CMP. So I don't know if those are things that can be passed or.
We can go ahead and discuss those, yes.
Which are the ones that are time sensitive? Can you give them to us really quick?
Yes, so if you go back to that page, I believe it's page 117, and the list starts on 118.
Yes.
So we do have on there, we have one of them which is under the requisition number 374291. It's organization 703. We have her property tax billing mailing, just so everything can go out on time.
Okay.
That's in reference to Texas. We do have, if you go towards the bottom of the page, the ones that have organization 806, which is fine arts. And if you see on the description column, it's for, they're happening on December 5th through 8th, December 5th. And since we don't know when the next board meeting will be, that's why I'm bringing it to your attention.
So all the 806?
Yes, sir.
703.
Okay. Okay. Just those two?
Those are the ones that I'm looking at, and then if possible, the ones that are for, it would be page, let's see.
So 806, yeah, okay.
It's 703, 806,
Yes.
and then on page 123, we have some for child nutrition program, just so it doesn't disrupt the purchases of the items we need for the students.
Is it the 938?
Yes, 938.
Is that it?
So we have those that are 938. And then we have, is it the crisis prevention?
Mr. Guerra, I think we have also the Gulf Coast, the paper company for maintenance where we buy our janitorial supplies. I know I met with Mr. Gonzalez this week and they need to order toiletries and the essentials, so I don't know that
Yes.
would be a time-sensitive item, or that would, I don't know, Mr. Gonzalez here?
We could approve that. Yeah, we could motion for that. Which one is it?
It's on page 120, Gulf Coast Maintenance, janitorial supplies for schools and
936.
departments.
936 at the bottom.
Okay. Mr. Balta, how do we go about?
So you can just make a motion as discussed by Mr. Guerra. And then Mr. Guerra, if you could highlight those and give,
I'll go into Becky.
give to Becky, so we could make that motion subject to the list that Becky has. So we
Okay.
could approve it.
And I will be including 984 for special ed. They do have a training that also needs to be done.
What page is that on, Chris?
This one would be on page 125, and it's going to be the very first one.
The first one?
The 984.
Okay.
Yep.
And
It's a crisis
There was some
prevention.
on career and technology, Mr. Guerra, 981. It's some of the machine equipment that we need for the welding shop. And then there was some computers for Ace Middle and Gruya Middle that Ms. Villarreal is buying from her department.
So those would be on page 124.
Madam President, maybe we could go into the executive session. In the meantime, Mr. Guerra can work on it, and then we can have a tighter motion. We come back out.
We'll do that, yes.
Okay.
Do I make a motion on that? No, we
No,
do it inside.
we come back, we'll come back to this one.
All right, the board will now convene in closed session in accordance with the Texas Meeting Act, Code Sections 551-071, 551-076, and 551-082, 551-08. I have to say that? It's 1:35 PM. Ready? We are back in open session. Time is 2:38 PM. Going back to item 17, do I have a motion for item 17?
Yes, Madam President, I move
Wait.
I move to approve item 17 with the list that was attached to that motion, with the exception of a few items, and I'll list them here. It's organization number 936, vendor being Johnston Supply. Organization number 936, vendor 3Gs AC and Small Appliance LLC. And again, organization 936, vendor Texas Chiller. So the motion is to approve that item with detachment, with the exception of the ones I just mentioned.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. Same sign, motion carries. Now, on executive act, items A, B, and C, no action is required. On items D, 1 and 2, no action required. On D, 3, do I have a motion?
I move to approve item D3 as discussed in executive session.
Do I have a second? Second, Ms. Patsy Garcia. And all those in favor, raise your right hand. Same sign carries, the motion passed. And do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Second.
So this meeting is adjourned. It's 2:39.
First complete meeting, sir. Sir, right.
Survived it.